Welcome back. 2.4 Ecological Tolerance. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe ecological tolerance. We're going to do this first by defining what ecological tolerance is and then examining some examples of what this looks like in the real world. Ecological tolerance is that range of conditions that an organism can survive before they reach injury or death. So this could be any number of abiotic, so non-living factors like pH or temperature, dissolved oxygen, salinity, sunlight. Anyone who's ever had a fish tank knows that we have to monitor all of these abiotic factors pretty closely. And this is because animals, organisms, can only survive a certain range. So in this graph here, we're looking specifically at temperature. And we've got this center range, which is the optimum. So this is the happy range for this group of fish. And you'll see that's why their population is higher. So they have a peak range of temperature. They can tolerate some variation out here, but not much. And then we get into the zone of physiological stress. So this doesn't mean that as soon as it crosses this cutoff point that all the fish are going to die. It means that they're no longer going to be at their peak performance. So they may not be reproducing, they may not be growing as well. It doesn't mean they all die. A few organisms may still be able to function pretty well outside those limits, but most of them probably won't. And this is our range of tolerance. So within this optimum range and the zone of physiological stress, you can still have living organisms. Once we cross that to the zone of intolerance, we get death. Death to the fish out here. So this can be translated to any abiotic condition. Again, pH, it could be temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen. With any of these conditions, and for any organism, they have a range. Again, we get death over here. We get reduced performance in our physiological stress. I know I don't perform well when I'm stressed, neither do the fish. But tolerance levels are not a static thing. They can change. So we've got the sturgeon here. I don't know if you've ever met this fish. Sturgeon spend most of their life in the ocean, so they can tolerate salinity, but they migrate back up freshwater rivers to spawn every May to June. So it's not a static thing. And furthermore, the ecological tolerance can apply to specific individuals and species. So within the human race, there are people who can tolerate different levels of temperature and humidity than others. So this blue line or blue area is the range that some people, specific individuals, can tolerate colder temperatures. So where some people may not make it more than an hour at negative 20 degrees, there's some people who could last down to negative 40 for a whole hour. I don't think that person is me. And as I said, this can be at the species level. So if you're familiar with the lesser flamingos, they live in Lake Natron, which can get to a pH of 10.5, which is extremely caustic. And they bring their babies there, and it doesn't bother them at all. Other species get completely brought down to the bone and killed when they get to Lake Natron. So to summarize ecological tolerance, this is our range of abiotic conditions that an individual and or species can tolerate. Organisms do not thrive and reproduce in the zone of physiological stress, and they die in the zone of intolerance. Again, could be different for individuals, such as Olaf hanging out on the beach.